an add-on for some which could not be just adjusted with phenobarbital. So an example, you have a dog which has now levels, let's say about 15, 16 micrograms per mil, which is on the lower level. What you could do is you add on a little bit more phenobarbital if the epileptic episodes are still going on, or you add on potassium bromide, or you add on levetiracetam. These are options. Also sonizumab, but levetiracetam is used more frequently. This is not really something what I would prefer. It's more a matter of price, but it's not really the best way to do it. So I would rather put that out. So this is not really the option. This is a good option, and this is a good option for those who do not respond. But of course, it all depends on how well dogs tolerate phenobarbital. If you have really difficulty with these, you generally start also a monotherapy with levetiracetam, for example. They do this here in clinic with some of the dogs. For cats, very similar. You have phenobarb as the number one. And if this alone does not work, you can substitute it with a benzodiazepine. It used to be diazepam mostly, but this has been more and more replaced by clonazepam because of hepatic failure, which is not so often, but which can be really severe. Okay, we have also even more limited experience with levetiracetam or sonazepam. Yeah?
With the cats, are you adding those drugs onto the phenobarbital or completely replacing it and not using phenobarbital?
Again, this depends on whether you have any difficulties with phenobarb, like hepatopathies or so. If not, you can try add-on, but you can also try monotherapies. So we don't talk about gabapentin because we have even less experience with gabapentin. More interesting might be sonizumab, and here are just some PK data and a little bit background. And levetiracetam is something when you talk about neurologists, clinical neurologists here in the clinic, they quite like levetiracetam. However, you will not have a 100% success rate even with levetiracetam. The problem with levetiracetam was it was quite expensive, but there are no generic drugs on the market which make it a little bit better. And there are also slow release formulations because you see the half-life in dogs is not very long. Okay, so this is the maintenance therapy. What do you do in the status epilepticus? The drug of first choice is diazepam. If possible, IV. If this does not work, there are Rectalets which you can give per rectum or intranasal. But the best way is definitely IV. You have a rapid onset of action. It is relatively non-toxic, so you can try even repetitive administration of high doses. If this does not work, you go further. You can give midazolam as an alternative because you might have some difficulties with diazepam in cats. If this does not work, you go higher with IV phenobarb, quite high, 10 to 20 mg per kg. But you do this really if diazepam was not effective. So you should always start with diazepam or with midazolam in cats if you fear some hepatic problems. This is something for later on. So the diazepam does not provide long-term control. So even if you stop the status epilepticus, just to be on the safe side, you should give also phenobarb on top. Yeah?
With the midazolam, did they substitute midazolam for cats
because of the hepatic failure that you see sometimes with diazepam.
Is that because of like the glycol? It's used to help, or is that?
No, it might be related directly to the diazepam itself. So not to some of the. So the problem is it works in cats as well, but it has been described in some cases with severe hepatic failure, even in maintenance therapy. So if you give it as a tablet dose. IV pentobarbital is in something like Ultima ratio. What is more recently done is propofol. You can also give propofol as an alternative. It might be the better alternative compared to pentobarbital because you have less cardiovascular respiratory repression and you have a fast recovery. Okay, yeah, of course you might have the problem, particularly if you go into anesthesia doses now. Dr. Fleischer talked about this extensively. Be aware of hypotension and respiratory depression. Okay, and that's it for anti-epileptic drugs where I want to touch on. For cardiovascular drugs, we talked extensively about the pathophysiology of heart failure and the drugs. Really, digoxin, yeah, plays a role, but I will not focus too much in the exam of it because it gets more and more replaced by newer drugs like phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor, calcium sensitizer, pimavanserin. ACE inhibitors still play a role, here the archetype, enalapril, and nitroglycerin. Here again, for digital glycosides, just to make sure you get the mechanism, the competitive inhibition of the sodium-potassium ATPase on the potassium binding side, and then sodium cannot get out of the cell. It takes another port, the calcium-sodium antiport, and then we have the calcium for the contraction. Okay. It is positive inotropic, it is negative dromotropic, which is mainly due to the activation of the vagal tone, and this is still the indication. It is still used for atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation. So for supraventricular arrhythmias, it's still a good choice. Ectopic beats are of course undesired. What we have, at least short term, is improved myocardial contractility, increased cardiac output, moderate diuresis, reduction of edema, and reduction of the heart rate. But this can only be a transient thing. Normally, by time the sympathotonic gets up again, unfortunately. Okay, just here, this might be interesting. Strophantine, for example, which you can use as a rescue medication. You cannot use it as a maintenance therapy because it has really very, very low oral bioavailability. So what you normally take is digoxin, because digoxin in comparison to digitoxin has not such a high binding to protein, so this does not delay the onset of action to the same extent as digitoxin. And for digitoxin, the other problem is that the half-life in dogs is quite short. So what you take, if you take at all glycoside, digital glycoside, is digoxin. And these do the short half-life. Okay, so indications, congestive heart failure often combined with diuresis and ACE. But again, this gets replaced by immunolated drugs. So if you have, because of the small therapeutic index, some intoxication, the first thing is you can just totally omit the drug. Or you treat, if this is really too high and you have arrhythmias, you treat with Digibind, which is unfortunately expensive, but it works. It works in dogs as well. It's an antibody. And for ventricular arrhythmias, which are often accompanied by digital resuscitation, you can use lidocaine. This is the reason why we use less and less digitalis glycosides. Pimavanserin has been quite a game changer. It's called inodilator because it has this dual mode of action. Dilation via CAMP elevation, we have vasodilatation in the arterial and the venal system, so we have balanced vasorelaxation, and the positive inotropic effect is not by an increase of calcium influx. There is a little bit of an increase, but not so much as we see with glycoside, but the binding capacity to troponin C is much higher than pimavanserin is in the system. And then we have an increased contractility, which is this positive inotropic. So without significant increase of intracellular calcium, we have less risk of arrhythmias, and also no significant increase in energy demand, like we have these digital glycosides. And we have also, due to the vasodilation, we have a dilatation of the, or dilation of the coronary vessels. And this is also something positive because we have a higher oxygen supply for the night. Altogether, we have an increased pre and after. Again, same indications, decompensation rate 2 to 3, so that means discipline during low physical activity. I will not ask for this. Okay, adverse effects, fairly few adverse effects. It's generally well tolerated. This might be a problem. We have a transient increase of blood glucose because we have an interaction with the pancreatic islands also. So we have this might be a problem for diabetic patients. Contraindications still hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because the idea is if you have already a heart which works really hard and we have hypertrophy of some musculature and we put on another strength, that this is really a contraindication. But honestly, we don't know exactly. So I think they tried to look into, for example, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy in cats, but they didn't publish anything. Perhaps it wasn't. I would always prefer if they also publish negative findings, but there's nothing published. Okay, drug interactions. Everything which is negative inotropic can weaken the effects. These are beta blockers, and these are calcium channel blockers. And here, calcium channel blockers like diltiazem, which are particularly working on the heart. Okay, why do we have to focus arrhythmias? This is a nice side finding in one of the studies with Primo-Benden. The hazard for cardiac, sudden cardiac death or congestive heart failure is 3 times higher if you have arrhythmias. So we should really address these arrhythmias. And here, this is also what I showed you very recently published in September this year, also done with clinicians here from NC State. This delay in clinical outcome if you start Primo-Benden quite early, also in mitral regurgitation, because you really have a benefit delay by roughly a year. It was 300 something days in median. So you can really have a benefit if you start Primo-Benden early. However, this is still not labeled because I think it's still recent, but it might be something which comes to the label quite fast. So before we had Primo-Benden, we had another game changer which still plays some role, and these are the ACE inhibitors. We have in short term this great mechanism which helps us when we have a decrease in blood volume or we have a decrease in blood pressure, that we can come up with an internal system to compensate for it. The problem is this system gets also activated in congestive heart failure, and in congestive heart failure it is devastating. That is the problem, because the long-term vasoconstriction and liberation of aldosterone leads then to edema formation. And this leads also to increase of the preload and afterload. And you see how interrelated it is with other systems. The sympathetic tone goes up. We have an increase of antidiuretic hormone, and we have an increase of the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. And all this leads to increase of preload and afterload. And so we have a worsening of market. So if we can interfere here and do this with ACE inhibitors, we have a reduction of angiotensin 2 and an reduction of angiotensin 2, induction of bradykinin Y, induction of bradykinin.
Because it is the bradykinin.
Okay, right. So the kinase 2 is the same enzyme as angiotensin 2. So that is the thing. So if you inhibit ACE, you inhibit also the degradation of drug. So not the formation, but the degradation. And so you have more bradykinin. The good thing is it helps with the vasodilatory effect. The bad thing is that it can sensitize some pain receptors. More a problem in human medicine. The chronic coughing is one of the side effects in human medicine, not so much in veterinary medicine, unfortunately, and is believed to be driven by this increase of bradykinin. So the effects are great. We have a reduction in plasma volume, which can also be further forced with a diuretic. So often you combine it with a diuretic. Reduction of blood pressure, reduction of remodeling. Yeah, we don't have really good evidence in veterinary medicine. There are more evidence in laboratory animals, and perhaps in part in humans. You recognize them easily with a prion. Captopril is something which I would not recommend. This is an archetype. This is the only one that is not given as a prodrug. Something like enalapril is given as a prodrug. It gets deesterified, and then we have the prilates. So we give it as an ester, and these esters get cracked as a prilates. So for example, enalapril, these are going to be active drugs, and with this trick, you have less variability of oral bioavailability. They differ in metabolism and excretion. This can be helpful if you have, for example, an animal with hepatopathies. You might then perhaps use enalapril and vice versa. However, in contrast to pimavanserin, the studies give it early, look whether you have a delay in onset of congestive heart failure, not really so convincing, not so convincing. The second study had a little bit of a delay. This became also statistically significant, but we talk here about a couple of weeks where for pimavanserin we saw it up to, which is really substantial. Okay, but again, both studies are compared to human studies quite small, but we are limited in that area. We don't have the money to do 2,000 patients. We have to live with what we have, and the evidence is quite good. It's always great if such a study gets reproduced by another, not by another center, because you see often that these are already multi-center studies, which is also a big advantage because there is less biases. If you have several investigators involved, there is definitely less bias. Often. The problem with long-term administration of ACE inhibitors is that you have some enzymes in your body, like chymase or tryptase, trypsin, kallikrein. These proteolytic enzymes can cleave either angiotensinogen or angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So even if you block the ACE, you still can have other ways to come up with angiotensin 2, and this might be then a problem that in long term you have lack or you have reduced efficacy. First, promising experimental studies in veterinary medicine also with the so-called side chance. They will not be part of the exam, but they might be part of your practice in 5 or 10 years when they really find their way also in the treatment of cardiac disease. Okay, then I talked a little bit about spironolactone. I think Dr. Papic talked also about spironolactone as a diuretic. Here I just wanted to show you this study. It's not many studies, but this study showed definitely that it cannot hurt, at least, to give spironolactone. So one idea could be that you make an alternation, give one day furosemide and the other day spironolactone. You have less potassium excretion, and you definitely have also an effect on the overall outcome here. This is cardiac-related death. You really have reduced cardiac-related death if these animals get spironolactone. And this was with mitral regurgitation. So non-dilated cardiomyopathy, these are the mitral regurgitation. Okay, vasodilators, we will not have the alpha-adrenergic blockers because they are not really used in veterinary medicine. We use the natural vasodilators, calcium channel blockers. Natural vasodilators they donate nitric oxide, which is the same as endothelium-derived relaxing factor. You see here is the structure of nitroglycerine, and you see they can donate quite a bit of nitric oxide. Nitroprosid works very similar to nitroglycerine. Those cannot be given as a tablet. Nitroprosid is normally given as a concentrate infusion. For nitroglycerine, you have these patches or gels or something like this, because you have this high first pass effect. So to circumvent this first pass effect, you have to give it via route then orally. Problem is they are really fast in onset of action. You might know in human medicine you use nitroglycerine, for example, for angina pectoris, and it really gives fast relief. It gives also fast relief in hypertensive crisis in animals. However, the problem is you have tolerance induction. The body adapted to it, so you can't give it chronically. Yeah, tolerance induction is a limiting factor that you can't give it, like for example, amlodipine, which you can give repetitively, because here you don't have a tolerance induction. Amlodipine is the calcium channel blocker, which blocks here the channel axis calcium binding axis receptor binding site, which is in the membrane, and then we have less calcium influx, and in the smooth muscle, this means less concentration. And the one which you use here as vasodilator is amlodipine. This is the most frequent. Okay. So for antiarrhythmic therapy, I have to admit this is really quite complex mechanistically. So this is why I again tried to keep it as simple as possible. I started with something which you might recall already from physiology. You have different phases of this action potential, and this just shows you again the action potential is dependent on the sodium influx, it is dependent on the calcium influx, and it is dependent on the potassium outflow. So, and depending on which of these ions the drug works mostly, it has been subdivided into 4 classes with subclasses. And for the class 1, I want to make my focus on the 1B, which is lidocaine and mexiletine, because 1A, you don't use them so frequently in medicine anymore. You used to use them more, particularly in horses, but as the supply in human medicine went down, it's the same then for veterinary medicine. Nobody just synthesized them for a few cases in veterinary medicine. But lidocaine is really one of the main representatives for the sodium channel blockers, which are really frequently used. The nice thing is you have no significant effect on the QRS or QT interval, little change on conductivity, and this is what is called use dependency. You have an effect on the conductivity where you have arrhythmias. So it seems to work quite selectively on the arrhythmias and slows conduction there, but leaves the normal conduction velocity alone, which is quite great. Okay. The problem is with lidocaine, you cannot use it for maintenance therapy because it has a very high first pass effect, and it is not good orally available. So you use it normally as an acute IV therapy for ventricular arrhythmias, and this is, for example, something where we have a big vital indication, this digitalis intoxication, which might be not that frequently anymore because, as I told you, digoxin gets more and more replaced. However, don't forget, they can also get digitalis intoxication by plants. So if you have a plant intoxication, then also this might help with ventricular arrhythmia due to intoxication of digitalis by plant sources. And Dr. Dorman will talk more about this in toxicology. So short duration, thus we give infusions with lidocaine. For maintenance therapy, you can use mexiletine, but again, even this has not such a long half-life, so you might be forced to give it every 8 hours. You have central nervous excitation with high doses of lidocaine. The great thing with lidocaine is it redistributes in the body quite fast. So normally the peak in the 7S is fairly short. So it really depends. If you have infusion with a high concentration, then this might be a problem. Vomiting, or be careful with cats. So depending on which textbook you look at, some say don't use it at all, or if you use it, you use it in a fraction of the dose of, for example, dogs. Okay, beta blockers. Beta blockers do not work directly on the conduction velocity. They don't work directly, but they work by reduction of the sympathetic stimulation. So not a direct myocardial effect, although you could question this because the myocardial has, of course, beta receptors. So if you block these beta receptors, you have also a receptor-mediated effect there. This is one of the drug of choice for supraventricular tachyarrhythmia. So it shelters the ventricle from arrhythmias in the uptake. And you see the archetype is propranolol, but not so frequently used. You more frequently use atenolol, particularly in cats. So this is something that is recommended for cats. You see atenolol is more better selective. Carvedilol would be great. The problem is because it has also vasodilatory properties. The problem with carvedilol is very low bioavailability, very short half-life. So the bioavailability is so inconsistent that it is normally not used in the animals. But what is quite frequently used, that is sotalol, and you see that sotalol is mentioned here as a beta blocker, because it has typical beta blocker structure, but you see it's also mentioned as potassium blocker. So it has both. It has potassium channel blocking properties and beta. You see, the L isomer has beta blocking effects, and both isomers have potassium channel blocking. So sotalol is quite frequently used, particularly because it can be used for ventricular tachyarrhythmias, but you see beta blockers can also be used for supraventricular tachyarrhythmias. Sotalol can be used really for both. Another drug, which is something like a last resort drug, it works very well, but unfortunately has a bunch of side effects, is amiodarone. So it is not the drug of the first choice, because first of all it has a complex PK, so if you give it just in one dose, it has a half-life of a couple of hours, and if you then give it effectively, the half-life goes up to days. And you have to start with a low-level dose. It's a little bit complicated, but there are drug regimens for this. It is accompanied with hepatotoxicities, thyroid dysfunction, gastrointestinal upsets, hypersensitivity. This is more in human medicine, but these problems can occur in dogs as well, for example. However, if none of the other antiarrhythmic drugs work, we should at least give it a try. So there have been several studies with amiodarone which shows definitely efficacy, which can be bought in by some studies. Yeah?
Sorry if I mentioned you mentioned anything about having to actually know the dosing and the low doses, like the 2 mg per kg or 1 or 2 mg per kg? Do we have to know that for the
No dose. No dose. No. So all doses I give you is just for you. So as there might be some dose adjustments, interestingly, so I would always recommend, very good is the handbook from Dr. Partridge, and he updates it every 2 or 3 years, and this is my suggestion to look for it. So I will not ask for any doses. No. It's really the principle. It's introductory pharmacology. Okay. So the last group is calcium channel blockers. We talked about calcium channel blockers 15 minutes ago when we talked about vasodilation. And I got this question this morning. It's a good question. Well, how does the channel blocker know whether it should go more on the vessels or more on the heart? Well, honestly, I don't have a good answer on this. However, the fact is that this is not an all or nothing. So, for example, diltiazem has also some effects on the coronary vessels and leads to a vasodilation. So it is not that it is only working on the heart, but mainly on the heart. Yeah. So we have a reduction of the calcium influx in this conduction conduction system. And perhaps you can recall this phase 0, this sodium influx, is replaced by a calcium influx in pacemaker cells. So in the sinus atrial node and in the AV node. And this means if you have a calcium channel blocker, they work particularly there. And so the indication is very similar to what we have with beta blockers, because we have a slowing of the sinus node with anti-AV conduction. And thus it can be good explained that we have the same indication as for beta blockers, and this is supraventricular tachyarrhythmias. It's exactly the same. We shelter the ventricle from arrhythmias which occur in the atria. So for atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter, you can use also calcium channel blockers. So diltiazem has a short half-life, but there are sustained release formulations for diltiazem which you can use. Verapamil, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was used much more frequently, but it really lost its momentum. So I will not ask anything about verapamil, because verapamil should not be used anymore. It has short half-life, low bioavailability, negative nootropic effects. Of course, if you have a calcium channel blocker, you have negative nootropic effects. So the same is true also for diltiazem. But all of this group take diltiazem as the archetype. So this is what as the main drug to memorize, because this is really the one which you will use later on. The problem is you have risk of bradycardia because you slow the AV conduction and the sinus node rate, and it can go up to an AV block even, particularly if you have a combination of beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. So be careful with that. That is key. Yeah. That is a good question. And you see that it is often combined. So you have to be careful then with the dose. That is a really dangerous going down with the dose. So, which is a better one. It's really hard to say because you have, as far as you can say, if you can talk about success anyway. So you have success with both. I would say if you really have the fear that you go too high direction AV block, I would recommend to take a rather diltiazem. Yeah, then I would say diltiazem is the channel blocker which I would use then, and be careful with the atenolol. But ask the clinicians. As far as I know, you could try the combination, but you really have to go lower compared to monotherapy. Okay, and I think that's it. Yeah. So that was a paphos. Yeah. So, any open questions? Yeah.
So you want to make a chemobended by battery inhaler and that doesn't talk about chemobended at the same time to treat and
Yes, so you can combine chemobendin with antiarrhythmic drugs depending on what you have, sotalol or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. But of course with sotalol you have to keep in mind that you buy in a little bit less positive inotropic effect because the beta blocker is negative inotropic. But it is essential to address arrhythmias. If you have arrhythmias, you should address them because they can really be a forced to some catheters. So yeah, you work with compromises. Any further questions? Okay, good. Good luck tomorrow. You will see us tomorrow. Yeah.